Should be live pretty soon here. It's always hard to know exactly when it
Oh,
begins.
okay. Just let me know because I'm like, I'm not sure if I had to click. And if it's too
Uh,
noisy, because I just have this out
yeah,
here.
yeah, I think you're live now. So, hey
Okay.
everyone, this is Colin again from St. Luke's. I'm so glad you can join us, and I'm really excited tonight because we have Yaar Kwai with us, who
Hi.
um, they're so glad that you're here. So it's another chance to hear some stories of God's grace, ways that God is working in our lives, especially in times that are tough. And if Yaar is up for it, we'd also love to make this also an episode of Grace and Race, to also think about ways that, especially in our current troubles, which of course have been going on for a long time, but people seem to be paying more attention in the last week or so, about where God fits in with just our country's pain and suffering around race. So,
Cool.
that said, Yar, is there a way that you'd like to sort of introduce yourself or share a little bit
Yeah.
more about who you are?
Yeah. So my name is Yar, and I know that we're doing this under the umbrella of St. Luke's. So I've been going to St. Luke's since I was 4 years old, actually. So I've been a member since I was a toddler, kind of. So I'm excited to be here, to get to speak on this and yeah, just to share where I feel like God's been working in my life, and also how this week with the whole racism and the writing, and just share a bit more of that. So I'm excited to share with you guys, and I hope you guys are tuning in and excited to hear as well.
Cool. Just a couple other things. So you graduated from Cal State San
Yeah, so I
Marcos.
graduated from Cal State San Marcos. So 5 years ago, I actually left St. Luke, San Diego in general, and went up to San Marcos. And I was there for 5 years. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in medical anthropology. So many won't know what that means. So it's basically the study of people, cultures, and why people do the things they do, why they behave the way they behave. So it's kind of connected to psychology, but not really, because psychology is talking about behavior, and anthropology is more so talking about a community, a group setting. And then the medical side of it was basically talking about or differentiating Western medicine with Eastern medicine, and then how different cultures aid themselves or heal themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and comparing that to America's way.
That's really
So,
cool. And
yeah.
what do you have kind of a sense of kind of what's next for you? I know right now we're all sort of in this suspension time of
Yeah.
stay home
To
orders.
be honest, I don't. Like, I wrote a couple books, self published them a
So
couple months
cool.
ago.
I'm jealous.
So I've been so I've been in this place of I guess asking questions, and also like navigating what's my strength, what are things that I know that I'll excel in, and how do I go into that? Because I feel like and I kind of I'll just kind of go into like my topic with this as well,
Yeah.
because as a college student, you're always told, like, once you go to college, like, go to college for however many years, 4 years, which is a general amount, and then after college, you're supposed to know exactly what you're supposed to do. And it's actually like that even in high school, where it's like, why do you want to go to college? What do you
Yeah.
want to major in? What do you want to do? So I actually don't know what's next, but I'm just kind of like toiling and just seeing where I can plant seeds, and then also like some of the things that I did in college where I worked kind of like gave me an understanding of like, oh, I actually want to go into more like administrative, and that's kind of where I feel like one of my strengths is. So we're just gonna see like where that takes me, but I'm open to wherever God has for me, or wherever He's gonna take me. But to have a specific where I'm gonna go, I don't know yet.
I love it. Well,
So
you have lots of adventures ahead. So
yes,
do
so
you have a story or two for us,
yep,
about how you've noticed God working in your life, especially in a time that was particularly difficult?
yes. And I kind of just want to say I'm also 23 years old. So
Okay,
if
there you
anyone
go.
wanted to,
Cool.
but yeah. So one of the stories that I actually have is I kind of wanted to go back with what I was just saying before, where it's like when you go to college, you're supposed to have like your ABCs, your eggs all in one basket. You're supposed to know what you're supposed to do, and then like once you're done, you're supposed to go and do it.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't like that. I think right after like last year of high school, I was an avid, and I was just like, all right, what do you want to do, Yar? And my mom, Susie, and she was doing nursing. And then I kind of guess I told myself my whole life, I want to be a doctor. I want to, go into like this area field. And right when I got into like freshman year, I kind of went into the nursing thing, because I was like, all right, I'm gonna chicken out a little bit. Let me just go to nursing. And then like I think after 1 year, I was like, this isn't for me. Like, it was just not the fact that it was hard. It was extremely hard,
Yeah.
but it was also more of just like mentally, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it was just too much. And like there were so many expectations. You have to have a 4.0, all this stuff.
Mm.
Not saying that I wasn't able to achieve that, but it was just getting to the point where I was just like, I don't really know if this is for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I was just like, well, Yar, you had this dream of becoming a doctor. So, why don't you just go the hard route, from the chicken out to the hard route.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me go and try to do biology so I can, go and see where becoming a doctor is. So that's kind of like what I told myself my whole life that I was going to do. Not necessarily saying that I had a passion for it. It was just more so like, oh, let me just be a doctor, So yeah. And then I kind of did that for 2.5 years. And like, it was also mentally, like, I just couldn't, like, not, I couldn't handle it, but it was just, there was so much stress. You had to do this amount of work, and for other people, like, if they really had a passion for it, there's like that drive, like, all like, even though it's super hard, I'm gonna go for it. But I started realizing that my passion for it was as less as like I was still, willing to work hard and like try my best, because that's just my personality is more so one where it's just like, I want to work hard. I want to do this, like whatever challenge is in front of me, I'm going to go after it. That's kind of my personality. But I was seeing like my passion for it was lessening, as like, this was kind of like my challenge, and like getting all the work done was in the middle. So I was just saying, well, Yar, like this isn't really, like what you want to do, because you don't really have a passion for it. You're just going at it because, that's kind of who you are. And then that's when like I finally, like, I was just like, I'm done. Like, let me just change it to anthropology. And the reason why I went to anthropology was because I was taking a few classes, it was like 100 classes, and it was something that interested me, because I was still interested in the healthcare field, in like the health field in some way. And I really loved what I was learning in those classes. I loved how you like understanding cultural anthropology. And then also towards like my last year in college, we went out to different communities. We got to talk to them, ask them questions about like, like their health and like diabetes, and like if they're informed. And I was just like, wow, like this is, I love being personal with someone and asking them questions, And then also in that time, I was a student assistant in more so like an office-based setting. And then, which I also realized, oh, I actually really love doing this. I love, being able to tackle work in a different way, And then after I graduated, or like more so like the last semester before I graduated, I was just like, what am I gonna do with my life? Like, am I gonna go do with my master's?
Yeah.
Like, I have all these options, and I'm just like, I can tackle this, I can tackle that. And then it was just more so like, there wasn't like a passion. It was just like, I need to do something because I'm graduating college and I have nothing next. And then after I graduated, I tried to pursue the master role, and then realized, Yar, this isn't really, you're going in debt for no reason, because there's no, even though there's like that, like you can do something in this, there wasn't really that passion,
Yeah.
And like that drive to continue doing this. Again, it was just more so like this is a hard, or not a hard place, but this is something that I can tackle because that's just who I am. And then God was just like, he was already showing me things that like were like things that like I would love to do, which was writing, which was doing mission trips, and like just being involved in the church. And I kind of didn't really, it wasn't really like there wasn't a job, like this is how this is gonna look. So it wasn't that, it was just like different little things that I was passionate about doing, and different little things that I excelled in. So when that doesn't have like a specific, like for example, like nursing or healthcare administration, there isn't a specific role or way to be like, I'm gonna go right, I'm gonna go left. There isn't that. So after I graduated, God told me like my time in San Marcos was done, because I didn't actually think it was gonna be done. I was actually preparing myself to like continue living there, because I was just like, you know what, like I'm at my wit's end. Like I don't really know what I'm gonna do. But if I'm here, God, I'm gonna like make my way to live here. And then I think 5 weeks before I graduated, because I think that January, which was last year, 2018, I told my job like, hey, like I really love this job. So if there is a chance, can I work beyond after I graduate? Like have an actual position. And they were up for it up until like the 5 weeks left of my last year, where they were like, Yar, like I'm sorry, like we're not gonna be able to do this anymore, and all that stuff. And I was like, all right, well, I don't really have a job lined up. And then it was just like the stress of like finding a job for those 5 weeks, and still nothing. Then I graduated, And then like, the graduation money and all of that helped a lot. And then I came back because I had like a lease that up until August, and I just kept looking for work in San Marcos, and there was just nothing. And I was just like, all right. And then God was just move back home, and I was just like, hey, we're moving back to San Diego. That wasn't really in my plan, but he said to move back home. And then August came. It was my the lease ended, moving back home, and then I was also looking for a job in San Diego, and I kind of found one through like my cousin, and it wasn't really like the ideal job, but it was the only one that was available. So I was like, I really need money right now. So that's kind of like my, where I'm gonna go. So, and then now I'm in a place, it kind of like taught me to be in a place of the unknown, and it kind of prepared me. So like with the whole thing with the COVID and all that stuff that just started erupting this year, I was like, all right, well, you can still continue moving along in this journey, because God taught me how to be in the unknown, how to be in a place where it's like, all right, it's not your specific place of what you wanted or desired, but it's just more so the place where you're in right now. And I feel like that's kind of like what the rest of the world is going through right now. Like some people have careers, and then now their careers are like, oh, well, I have to let you go. Or, oh, well, like now you got to figure out something else. And it's like sometimes people don't think that they're going to be able to like be in that place where it's just like, this is like a set goal. Like I have to do this, this, and this, get married by this age, work in this job, all this stuff. And if one day, like no one ever thought like this was going to happen, People always thought that you're supposed to have your eggs in a basket because that's what society told everyone, that's how it's supposed to go. But God, he's above what society thinks, obviously. And like his way is like, sometimes when we're in the unknown, that's like the best place that he could have us. Because now we're just looking to trust him specifically and solely put our whole trust in him. And it reminded me of the Abraham story when he told Abraham to go into the place where I'm going to show you. He didn't tell him what place. He just said, go into the place I'm going to show you. And he just had to go, and he was going to show him step by step by step. And I feel like that's kind of like what God is doing with not just me, but like the whole world right now. And I kind of want to share a few verses. So Proverbs 16:9 says, man makes their plans, but the Lord determines their steps. So I kind of want to share that because that's kind of like the journey that I was in, where I was making all these different plans, and God was like, no, you're going to go here. And like, you're going to go here. And I'm like, all right, these are the steps that he's taking me in. But, I still have my plans, they kind of like, it was just like little intricates of it. Like I was just like spilling little intricates of it. Like, oh, okay, I can still do this somewhere. I can still do this somewhere. I can fit this in this little place. But ultimately, I'm going into his direction. And then Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And this was very difficult for me because in our own understanding, we have like this minuscule, this minute understanding beyond like God's huge understanding of what he has for us, I think it was somewhere in the Bible where it says, I think it was in Proverbs, where it says like like the smartest man, I mean, this is going to be more so me, it's not the exact word, but the smartest minded man is like God's like the smallest, like smart,
for God. Angel in heaven or something,
so like the strongest guy who has like the biggest understanding, it's like God's like little understanding compared to like the biggest understanding, So it's kind of like when we go beyond what we understand and just saying, all right, God, I'm going to trust you in this specific place, it like blows, it's like, it's more, it's beyond what we have, Sometimes we think we're invincible and all this stuff, but it's just like when we find ourselves in a place where we like realize we're not invincible, it's like, all right, like, anxiety starts, stress starts, all this starts, but God still says, cast all your anxiety on him, do all of this. And it's just like, how do we do that when we're in a place where we just don't understand?
I love it.
So it's just like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's just great wisdom that you have. I know I'm personally struggling with a lot of what you're talking about right now, but the ability to start trusting in God and watching how God's working is amazing. I just wanted to share two comments people had. Don was saying, thank you for speaking to this, Yaar, and this myth that we were told that we have to know it all at a certain age. And then Robin Withers was saying, you have time to explore and decide, you'll find your way. It may appear that others coming out of school have it all together, but that everyone's path is not the same. Having options is success. So people just kind of affirming what you're saying, that everyone has a different path, and
Mm-hmm.
I just love that you are already kind of practicing the trust of where God is leading us and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I would just ask you honestly, so
Yeah.
if we are supposed to be trusting God, um, right now especially, where is God in this pandemic? Where is God with the way that our nation is unraveling, you know, around
Mm-hmm.
race? Like, where is God right now, and what does it look like to, what does it mean to trust God right now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any
As
insight
you're,
for us? I know
yeah,
those are big questions, but
no, that's great. Like,
yeah.
and it just reminds me of the story of Jesus in the boat,
Yeah.
and with his disciples, and how the storm came. Like, you can look at what we're going through as this huge storm, as a metaphor. And as they were going through the storm, like Jesus was just sleeping through the storm, and like they were afraid, they were
Yeah.
panicked. Everyone's like, Jesus, like yelling at him. Like, this reminds me of people right now yelling at Jesus. Where are you at? What are you not doing? Like, why are we in this place and you're not doing anything about
Yeah.
it? And then, like, Jesus looks at him, and then he's like, why did, like, and I think it was like at that point where he was just like, why did you like fear? Like, why didn't you trust? Like, it wasn't like he was like hugging them like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. But it was just more so he was just looking at them and saying like, why did you fear?
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes we think like when we're in a time like this where it's just like, I mean, like, obviously, like, God is like, he's loving, he's caring, and like, he wants to be with us in our closeness, and like times where we're hurting. But like sometimes he's just like, where's your trust? Like, do you not trust me in this?
Mm.
Um, and then like he stilled the storm, and it's funny because it's like it was so easy for him to do that. Like, and then people ask like, why can't he do that now? I don't even have the answer to that, but it's just like, when we're in a place where we have all these questions, it's just like, all right, God, well, you slept through the storm, so like, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna sleep through the storm, but like, how do I trust you? Because we obviously know that you're gonna take care of it. We obviously know that like your plans for us are good.
Mm.
And it's funny because I've heard like memes about this time where it's just like, wow, like it's like World War III. It's like all this stuff that's happening, and like, you watch videos and you're like, wait, this is the world that we live in. Like, it's like question mark slash like who knew this was gonna happen?
Yeah.
And it's like we would watch like movies like Jurassic Park, or like, like the end of the world movies or stuff like that, and it's just like, well, that can't be real life. But like now it's just like, like, what else can happen? Like the murder hornets, all the things that are happening, the racing, the rioting, it's like the
Yeah.
fires. It's like, what else can happen in this world? But it
Mm.
also reminds me of like many stories in the Bible where those things actually happen. Sometimes we look at the Bible as like history, like this can never happen. Like, with the Noah's Ark, like the flood,
Sure.
all this stuff. And I know, God did the rain, like show the rainbow to reveal like, he's never gonna flood the earth again.
Yeah.
But it's like the Sodom and Gomorrah story, just all these different things where we've even seen, like, especially in America, like there's just been so many things where where God's not in, like we took him out of the schools, we took him out of all. I'm not saying this is like a reason why all this stuff is happening, but like you have to look at all the different, like, I'm not gonna say like all the different sins, all the different things that the world is like going through and like doing. No one cares about God anymore. People
Yeah.
only care about God when like bad things are happening.
Yeah.
Not to say everybody, but
Yeah.
like what the world is going through right now. And so it's like, I mean, we can't really be like, oh, like, how do we get here? Because it's like, you obviously could see how you got here, but like no one wants to say like, or no one wants to believe that there's a God.
Sure.
But when things happen, it's like, God, where are you? But didn't you not believe there was a God? Like, like yesterday.
Sure.
So it's just like, it's like showing like, God is still here. Like,
Yeah.
God still, like, he still holds the walls together. Like he's still present in our lives. And then you ask the question, like, where is God? He's within us. It
Mm.
says, when we receive God and receive the Holy Spirit, now he's in us. That's why in the Old Testament, they had prophets to go and speak. So no one could speak to God besides like hearing it from the prophets. But now, after his son died for us, now we have a chance to speak to him internally, because he's now with us. He's not like, oh, he's just up there. There's a saying where it says a man upstairs. No, he's within us.
Mm.
So when we understand that, even when we're going through difficult situations, there's peace through it, because he's our peace. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. So
I wonder if you'd be willing to share. You had mentioned that you had seen something on social media of someone that you knew recently and saying something that really disturbed you, and you kind of
mhm.
you were kind of weighing about like what to do or not to do in response, and you talked a little bit
Yeah.
about like where like niceness fits in. Do you have anything that you'd want to share about that? I thought it was really interesting, but it's cool if
Yeah,
you don't want to share
because
that
it was
stuff.
just like it was somebody that I worked for in when I was in college, and actually they knew some of my pastors as well. So it was just like wow, I can't believe like a Christian would be saying this. I can't believe there was a misunderstanding, and like at that point, at that moment, it's like I wanted to, and it wasn't like the fact, because I know you were telling me before, like there's a way to still bring out the truth and say what you have to say, but I knew within me it was just like my flesh and my spirit were fighting with each other. Like I really want to say something that's like negative. It's not even bringing out the truth. It was just something negative, just to be like, no, like it was like this, like I'm not even gonna say it was like this. There's a holy anger, but it was just like this anger of like, well, how can you say this thing, Especially because like I kind of see your I'm not gonna say accolades, but like you're supposed to be Christian. You're supposed to be like this type of person. It's like how dare you say that? And I feel like a lot of people are having that, especially African Americans, are having that moment where they're just like, wow, I can't believe like this person that I knew for this whole time is actually a racist or is actually saying misunderstanding in this way. Or, now their true colors are coming out. So it's like, how do we respond in that time? And for me, the way I responded was to not respond at all because, it says if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So it was more so like that. And I knew like there was obviously a way that I can say it, but it's just like at that time it's like kind of like pick your battles of like, do I really want to like there's probably going to be another time where I'm going to say something, but it's going to obviously be in a different matter. So it's like sometimes we should say stuff based off of our like say stuff in a way where we're educating, not just like in our anger, like how dare you say this or all. I mean, like some people it's just within them to like do that, but it's just like how do we say that in a place where we're trying to educate, we're trying to understand. Because I also saw this post where it says like Black Americans in America right now, like we can't just automatically like be defensive or like try to like say what we have to say for like Caucasians or those people who don't understand racism, because it's like they've lived their whole lives. And then there's also this thing where it's like obviously when a baby is born, they're not born racist. It's like something that they was embedded in them, something that they've learned their whole life. So like for someone who clearly just probably from their grandparents, their parents, like it's kind of like something that's stuck in their head, not necessarily to be racist, but to look at this person differently. That's not your skin color, It's like it's like all like maybe they're like 18, 20, whatever, 30 years old, have those many years they've always had this like understanding of like this is how this person's supposed to be. Like it's a negative understanding, and like some people take that and run with it and like it bases their whole life, and then some people want to understand but they don't know how to understand. So it's like, how do we have those conversations with those who actually want to understand instead of just arguing with those who don't want to understand?
And then it's like, whose responsibility is it to educate people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like, are you supposed to be educating me right now about like what it means to be a black woman in America? Like,
Yeah.
what is my responsibility in this as a white man? And yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about right now, and for better or worse, it seems like a lot of white America is finally paying attention, and and we have the privilege to not pay attention, right? So like,
No, that's true.
so that's just kind of exercising our privilege to just sort of ignore oppression, and so now we're finally paying attention because like windows are being broken, right?
It's
And
like all 50 states. I just saw, I think on the news, it was like all 50 states are now protesting. It's like you can't really like go away from it,
yeah,
you know. So,
where do you where is God in this? Is there hope for racial reconciliation? What would that look like? um, I don't know, where does God fit
yeah,
with racism?
I feel like the church has a lot to do with it. And I think earlier I was telling you about that. Because like in the Bible, it talks about God's coming back for a blameless and spotless bride, which is the church. It's like, and there's a lot, in the church right now. Just depending on what church you go to specifically, there's a lot of, it's diverse. Like you have the white Americans, you have Black Americans, Sudanese, just different cultures in general. So when it starts there, because like when people go to the church, they're not gonna go. It's like when you go into the world or go in the church. Like when you go into the world, you have all arrays of like whatever you want to do. But when you go to the church, you're thinking, I'm going here because they're loving. They care. They have God's heart. So it's like when we think of like racism in this sense, and like where is God in it, and like how do we go from here? It's like now we're asking like how can the church like stand on racism? How can the church stand for what is right, what is biblical, what is godly, and how can they like do something about it? Where in a sense, like for example, if like they actually start talking about it more, like especially like the pastor, the preachers, like they're educating the people more about it instead of just like, specifically just staying and like, I'm just going to talk about the Bible, you know, weekly by weekly. And I'm not saying like the Bible isn't in it, but like, how do you talk about the Bible, but also talk about things that are hurting the flock, hurting, those who you're supposed to take care of as a shepherd. And then how, when that understanding comes there, it's like, how do we then go into the world? Because God calls us to go into the world,
Yeah.
So how do we then bring that into the world? And once we then bring that into the world, it's like, and it's just like, it's like where it's like, this verse just came into my mind where it says, when you lead someone to repentance, it's love that leads them to repentance. It's not hate. We're not going to be out there bringing everything as everyone's doing, but how do we become the light of the world and share that love, which then, fizzles out the, so it's like, yeah.
I love
think it starts with the church.
Yeah, I love that you brought it to the church because I sincerely believe that if there is sort of hope, it's through the church. And there's plenty of churches that are filled with humans that mess up all the time too. But with God's help, I feel like church is one of the few remaining spaces where people can, over time, build fairly equitable relationships of mutual benefit and transformation. And I really think relationship is the kind of space where this kind of transformation has to happen, right? Where that kind of love and understanding over time can sort of build in a way where people can really start to see from another's eyes, which of course has to happen at least in some limited way for us to be able to make any progress, because we are just seeing each other as members of groups instead of individuals created lovingly by God, And so I have hope for the church, but I love how because I remember we talked about this before we started going live, that like it's a natural human thing for humans to put labels on people, but I love how by kind of bringing it to the church, you're sort of adopting a different label, a label of Christian, which doesn't in any way erase all the other labels that society puts on all of us, but it's a way to then go back out in the world in a way that can be, and again, we mess up all the time, but with God's help, but can be this like constructive, transformative force and like presence in the world. But that's
so I feel like one of the things the church is scared of is like, it's like, how do we go into the world? And like, it's like they're dismissing the fact that how strong God is, It's like how you were saying, with God's help, we can do all these things. But sometimes we're like built into the fear, especially with what the media is saying. Like, oh, like how about if we did open our churches today? And like, how about if somebody gets sick? Like, I mean, those are all real questions, but I feel like it's a lot more of like the what ifs, the how abouts, and all these questions of what the media is portraying to you. Because I also saw this thing where it's like now with the whole writing, the media doesn't talk about the coronavirus anymore. It doesn't talk about all these things. So basically, what is the media feeding the people of the world? And then like, what is it also feeding the church that's like trickling into the church, and the church is believing it, where it's now scared as the rest of the people. But God also calls us to not fear, I think it's like Timothy 1:7, where it says, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So how do we then, go into the word and believe the word in a way where we're able to make that change and go into the world without the fear of like, I mean, they're all real fears, but without the fear of like, oh my gosh, if I do this, how about if I get sick? If I do this, how about this person, tries to kill me if I do this? How about if what I'm saying doesn't make sense, And it's like God's going to give us what we need to say. And I just got a little, where God told, it was Moses and Aaron, where he told them to go and speak to the Pharaoh to let his people go. And Moses said, well, I don't want to speak, because he was, at that time, I'm not gonna say illiterate, but like he didn't think that he had a good speech, or he didn't think that he was qualified enough to be able to speak. And like God was all like, didn't I create your mouth? Like, I'm gonna give you the words that you need to say. And then after a while, he told Aaron, and then and that's how the story went. But it's just like sometimes we fear like the things that we need to say. We fear like what's gonna happen, all this stuff. But it's like God gave us our mouth to speak. God gave us all that we need to be who, like, to be like Christ-like in this world. So
Thank
I feel
you.
like when we
Yeah.
like come out of that fear, what the media and the world is portraying to us, then we're able to be like, all right, God, what do you actually have to say? And like, you know,
Yeah. Thank you
yeah.
for the reminder of how powerful God is and that God gives us what we need and puts the people around who we need to do what God is calling us to do. It's
Hmm.
easy for me to forget that, and I just appreciate
Hmm.
that reminder.
Yeah.
You may or may not believe that we've already sped through 30 minutes. Are there any
Oh,
things else you'd want to add before we sign off for
yeah.
tonight?
I think lastly, I think it was a it's like I think Luke, where Jesus was talking to the Pharisees, and then he was just saying like, basically to paraphrase, like God brings the people that he needs to bring to like say what he needs to say. You know, those who he needs to heal, those who he needs to actually talk to. Because I think there was a Pharisee or somebody there was saying like, you know, why do you keep talking and no one's listening here? Or why do you keep talking? And like it was just like more so like, you know how the Pharisees and the Sadducees were at that time, where they're just nitpicking like God, Jesus. And then he was saying like the people who he needs, the people who God wants to touch and talk to, he will bring to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like our reminder as us going into the world. Like we don't have to like bang down every person's door. Like, you know, like, will you believe God? Will you trust God? Do all this stuff. But it's just, we just need to be who we need to be, because ultimately God does everything for us. Like he's going to bring the right people. You know, he's going to speak for us. We're just his vessels and he's just going to use us. So that's kind of like the encouragement that I want to bring, you know, lastly, is like God can do so much in you if you allow him. And if you don't hear, you know, what we think or our own human fears, and just let God be God in us. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Come, Lord Jesus. I hope people will notice in the post for this video is a link to Yar's poetry books that you can get on Amazon. So check those out. And then, Yar, would you be up for a closing prayer for us? No pressure
Yes.
if you'd rather not. Okay.
All right. God, I just thank you so much for this live. God, I just pray for the people who were on this live and those who are even going to hear the playback, that they'll feel encouraged, God, to go into the world and make disciples, just like you said in your word. God, I pray, Lord, for just any fear and anything that's hindering us from truly trusting you, to just be rid away. God, I just pray that we'll fully be able to just trust you and just know that you are God, that you are love, and that you are able to do exceedingly abundantly all that we can ever ask or imagine. And that as we just see what's been going on in this world, that we can have full assurance and full hope, God, of your coming, and that you're able to do anything in an instant, God. So I just bless all these people that are hearing, and I just thank you for them as well. And I bless this time. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Yar, you're amazing. Thank you again.
Thank you. All right.